Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with DB. This is a virtual learning series. I'm the person giving the introduction today for this great conversation, and it's a dialogue on police and the Black community. I am honored to introduce Dwayne Bryant and Sybrina Fulton. But before I introduce them, allow me to say a couple things. One, we are living as a Black community. We are living in two pandemics. One is COVID-19, and the second one is racism. Let's speak about the first one. So as we know, COVID-19 is a disease that has been ravaging not only this nation, but this world. And as the disease came to the United States, and we began to get the numbers on who the disease is affecting most, we come to a realization that COVID-19 is disproportionately affecting people in the Black community. And so COVID-19, in an article by MedPage today, they wrote, with the limited national data available to track COVID-19 outcomes by race, states and local municipalities started releasing their own numbers one by one. And they wrote, in Louisiana, African Americans accounted for 70% of COVID-19 deaths, while comprising 33% of the population. In Michigan, they accounted for 14% of the population and 40% of the deaths. And in Chicago, 56% of deaths and 30% of the population. If COVID-19 was the only disease that was ravaging the Black community, that would be terrible in and of itself. But we're dealing with the disease of racism as well. And so, believe it or not, the American Medical Association, they wrote an article titled "Police Brutality Must Stop." And they wrote, the American Medical Association policy recognizes that physical or verbal violence between law enforcement officers and the public, particularly among Black and Brown communities where these incidents are more prevalent and pervasive, is a critical detriment of health and supports research into public health consequences of these violent interactions. And they went on to write, in any season, police violence is an injustice, but its harm is elevated amidst the remarkable stress people are facing amidst COVID-19 pandemic. Even now, there is evidence of increased police violence in the form of excessive police-initiated force and unwarranted shootings of civilians. So as we're facing COVID-19, the American Medical Association also recognizes that police violence against Black and Brown communities are also a health hazard. And so that's why we're honored to have this dialogue between Dwayne Bryant and Sybrina Fulton on police and the Black community. So Sybrina Fulton, she is the mother of Trayvon Martin, who was tragically killed in 2012. And so she is the founder of the Trayvon Martin Foundation, and she emerged as one of the nation's leading voices on combating the system that allows injustices to plague our community. And she's also the author of Rest in Power, The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin. And Sybrina Fulton is the candidate for Miami-Dade County Commissioner. And we have the host of this show, Mr. Dwayne Bryant. And Mr. Dwayne Bryant, for those of you who know him on Facebook or been to any of his seminars, you know that he needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him an introduction anyways. So Dwayne Bryant, he's often sought after by corporations, nonprofits, and academic institutions for his proven ability to offer his audiences resources on how to unlock their unlimited potential, their unlimited power. Dwayne has been featured on the Oprah Show, ABC's Heart and Soul, and many others. I know Dwayne personally because he is a mentor of mine. He is a mentor. I remember the first day I met him, it was at a graduation ceremony backstage, and I was having a conversation with Dwayne, and I told him that I wrote a book. And he was like, yeah, you wrote a book? And so we're having a great conversation about it. And I attempted to give Dwayne my book for free, and he said, no, I will not take your book for free. He digged in his pocket and he gave me a $20 bill. And he said, I'm going to pay for your book. And I was like, why? And Dwayne told me he wants me to realize that if I create something of value, then people should pay me for the value that I'm creating. And that lesson that Dwayne taught me has been with me every single day since that moment. And the next time I was with Dwayne, he was leading
Man, we got time for all that. We got to get in this interview.
All right. Listen,
I'm waiting. Hey, listen, I'm waiting to talk to Sybrina.
I want to guys Dwayne up because he's my mentor and my friend, and I love him so much, and I love the work that he is doing, and he is changing the community. Everything he touches turns to gold, and so I deeply appreciate Dwayne and the work he is doing. And so without further ado, I would love to bring to the stage, the virtual stage, Mr. Dwayne Bryant.
Hey, man. First of all, Jefferson, thank you so very much. Listen, Sybrina is so cold that she has her own theme song, and the world does not know it yet, but I had one of my guys in Chicago to create this theme song, so I got it on my phone. I'm gonna press play. I hope everybody can hear it okay. Hold on.
Oh God, please.
Oh man, what happened? What happened? See, my foot.
That's what happened.
My footstep down. Positive vibes only. Speaking to the world. Miami Dade County. Stay focused, stay woke, stay woke. Sybrina Fulton, check out my foundation. Miami Dade County representing cause I Tell me that ain't hot, Sybrina Fulton. That's right, you a hero, and every superhero need a theme song, god dog. So my guy Spree out of Chicago made that up for you. Now, let me say this. I sent a couple of questions out. I just asked, hey, if you wanted to talk to Sybrina Fulton, Trayvon Martin's mom, what would you say? I got responses from Chicago, Haiti, Dallas, New York, Ghana, Cameroon, Africa, Orlando, St. Louis, Nigeria, New Orleans, and at least New York, at least 10 other places. Wow. So apparently somebody wants to hear what Trayvon Martin's mom want to talk about. So today I got a lot of questions for you, but the first thing I want to do is ask you, how are you doing? How are you doing mentally? How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing spiritually in light of everything that's going on?
Well, I can honestly say that I'm doing well. I am doing well. I didn't realize how tired I was until I had to stay home because of the virus. And so I enjoy being home. I love my house. I enjoy being around my family. I love sleeping in my own bed. I love, just being home. I actually started cooking a little more, and I got a chance to clean up my closet, and I haven't gotten to the garage yet, but all things considered. But I'm doing well. I'm exercising. I'm eating a little more, but I'm exercising a little more too. And so I watched everything almost on Netflix.
I know your last show is Black Lightning.
That's what I'm finishing up Black Lightning now. I think I'm on the 3rd season now.
Very good. So let me ask you this question then. Before COVID-19, what was your schedule like? Because you're saying you're loving being in your bed, so I'm assuming you were on the road all the time. What was that pre-COVID schedule looking like?
Well, I have a very rigorous speaking schedule. I speak professionally through a speakers bureau out of Boston. It's American Program Bureau. And, anybody could go to their website, but I speak for professionally, and usually a lot of things that they get for me are at colleges and universities. So I speak to a lot of young people, which I really enjoy doing. Because their mind is still shapeable, is still moldable, and they're not set in their ways and say, oh no, this is the way to do things. They're more apt to listen, and they're more apt and they're more resilient. And I just love speaking with the young people. I know that's our future and everything, and so I just love speaking with them. And so I did a lot of traveling with with the Speakers Bureau. I do a lot of traveling with the foundation. Meeting with different families, going to different areas, and just speaking to just meeting with families, meeting with politicians, just trying to change the system and trying to compare what's happening here in my very own community to what's going on in other places like Texas, like Chicago, like New York, and California, and Vegas, and we really all over the place. We really on a national level, and I've done some things in Bermuda, and I've done some things in London. And
so let me ask you this question, because clearly with the traveling that you were doing, there's a mission and there's a message that you have. There's a path. No one does that level of work just for the fun of it. So what is your intention for behind all of that work?
Well, my intentions, I clearly know that we're not going to turn this country over to our young people in a good condition. And so I just feel like it's my mission to, just to continue to encourage our young people, to continue to let our young people know that they have to have an agenda, they have to have a purpose, and that they're seeing someone who had been through the worst tragedy that you could possibly go through in life by losing a child, and still I rise, and so I just want to encourage them. I want them to know that in spite of what they're going through, they can still discuss and they can still plan ahead for their next chapters.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to go back a little bit because I met Sybrina in Chicago, Pam Redwood, through her speaking agency. And what was funny is Sybrina had captured the attention of a group of mothers before the engagement. Then during the engagement, she had at St. Sybrina literally standing room only. People were standing all the way in the back of the church. And then after the engagement, she still stayed and she literally talked to people for hours. And I was like, that is very rare, because I've been around a lot of speakers. Hey, they get paid for 45 minutes, 44 minutes and 59 seconds. They're wrapping it up and they're ready to go. So that's one thing I notice about you is I appreciate your passion and your conviction and your true love and desire to inspire the people. So what I want to do is I want to take a couple of questions. One is coming from Art Sims in Chicago. He says, how are you personally healing from your son's death? And we see that there's parents across the country, and if not the world, who have to experience the death of their children. How are you personally healing from your son's death? And is that such a thing?
It's absolutely such a thing. I don't cry as much. I still cry, and I'm not afraid to tell people that I still cry. I have my good days and my bad days just like anybody else. Early on, I can certainly say that I started meeting with mothers who have lost a child through senseless gun violence like myself. And what I did, I started reaching out to those mothers. I started going to those different cities and connecting with those mothers. And just by me being there, and they knew what I went through, and they saw themselves in me and say, well, if she can make it, I certainly can make it. And so that meant a lot to me, and while I was helping them heal, I was healing myself. And so I can certainly say that I reached out to other mothers who were in the same circle that I was, who were in the same situation I was, and it kind of took the pressure off of what I was going through. Even though that type of pain never goes away. It never goes away. My heart is forever broken. You can't mend it back together. You can't glue it back together. You can't stitch it back together. I have a hole in my heart, and people have to know that. And that's the hole for my son. But I filled that hole with love. I filled that hole with compassion. I filled that hole with just a whole bunch of different things, including staying busy. So this happened February 26, 2012, and I can honestly say I've been busy for the last 8 years, and I continue to keep myself busy. It wasn't until now that I got a chance to like press the reset button and take a break and say, oh my God, I didn't even realize my body was so tired. I didn't realize that, and for the first maybe the first 2 weeks, I was sleeping a lot and I thought I was sick. But it was just that my body needed to just relax and just break down and just say, okay. I mean, I remember a few days that I had on my pajamas the whole day. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. I've never done that, Yeah. But it felt good just being home.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. So let me ask you this. I heard On my Facebook page, I have a diverse group of people, a lot of white folk, some racist, some white supremacists, some black power folk, etc. And a white woman said, DB, I followed you after you wrote the book, The Stop, because I like what you're saying regarding police and community. She said, I don't always agree with what you said, and I did not agree with these protests and demonstrations prior to George Floyd. She said when George Floyd was on that ground and that white supremacist, Derek Chauvin or whatever his name is, and the other 3 officers who pinned him down and held him down, she said when he cried for his mother, and then she said she found out that his mother, who was already dead 2 years prior, she said that's when it hit her heart that, whoa, this could be my son. And so now she said she had never connected with the black struggle. What are they always complaining about? Why didn't they comply, et cetera? And she said it finally hit her that she realizes that black people do get treated differently with law enforcement. So then I'm listening to what you're saying. It sounds like what you're able to do, Sybrina, is you're able to allow people to see you and to see your pain and not just say that's them and those and that's the black people's problem, but this is an American problem. How do you feel about that? And is that intentional or is that just the byproduct of everything that you're doing?
No, it's absolutely intentional. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people, when we were going through the trial and deposition and all those different things, the a bond court, and we went through just a series of things in my journey, and they always saw me on the news. They always saw me. I was able to talk, but they didn't see the other sides of me. They didn't see the sides where I wasn't able to talk. And so now they're able to put a person with Trayvon Martin's mom, because sometimes I don't have a name. It's just Trayvon Martin's mom. You know, right. And it's okay because I'm glad they associate me with him. You know, I am his spokesperson, just like his dad is. But I just want, and I'm glad you did mention that, because we can't continue just to talk to other African Americans. Right. And I've been saying that for a minute, that right. we can't keep preaching to the choir. You have to step out of your box and talk to another group of people. So it was very important that there was a camera for somebody to record that and for them to post on social media. So I give props for the person who recorded. I heard
it was a 17-year-old girl who had the courage to stand there and record it straight through.
Absolutely. And then even if he didn't cry out for his mom, that should have been enough for people to say, you don't treat human beings like that, regardless of if he's straight, if he's gay, if he's educated, if he's uneducated, if he's black, white, purple, green, if he's rich, he poor, whatever the circumstances was, he was a human being. And we have to get back to the basics about caring about another human being. We've gotten to a place in our life, we have gotten to a place in society that this country is comfortable with killing African Americans and nobody being held accountable for it. And so I thank God for that video camera, because now other people can see what we've been seeing and what we have been complaining about for many years. I'm thinking about right now about Emmett Till, when the white woman said that he whistled at her, and then she just recently came out and said that it wasn't true. But they had already beaten him and burned him and tied a rock up to him and throwed him in the lake. And then his mom opened up the casket. And just imagine all those things that she had to go through for nothing, because a person lied, because a person felt like they had white privilege and that nothing was going to happen to her anyway. If she told
you know what's interesting about that? Let's bring Emmett Till's, and we can go back to the 1800s. We can go back to before then, but let's bring that to 2020. Now, Amy Cooper, liberal, white woman in Central Park. She knew that who is this black man have the gall to question me, to question what I do with my dog? And she right away, if I call the police first, he's probably going to be scared. So I want to say congrats to Christian Cooper for not running, for knowing his rights, for being an intelligent, strong Black man who stood his ground and did not allow her threats and her fear and intimidation. That's something that we need to learn as a people as well, to threaten him. He stood his ground, and when he did not leave, I don't know if you paid attention to this, but then she said, he's threatening me. So she knew that a white woman crying.
You're missing the point.
Go ahead.
Because the same exact thing could have taken place had he not had that video. You see, it was the video. Because what if the video wasn't present?
Correct.
And she said that, and the police came, and they're going to listen to her word against him.
Absolutely, they would.
He had that video, and that's what's the key thing. So we got to definitely make sure we put laws in place that the police do not harass you because you're videotaping something that's occurring. As long as you stay back a safe distance and you're not involved in the arrest that's taking place or the incident that's taking place, and you stay back a safe distance, we got to make sure, because that's going to be the other thing. Because whenever it's a person that's deceased on the ground, we would have never known that there was not a struggle when it came to George Floyd. We would have never known that
Absolutely.
he did this arrest had it not been for that video. And even with this lady, Amy Cooper, we would have never known the real situation that happened, but we watched it as it was occurring because of the video. We knew that she approached him.
Correct.
She walked over to him because she was so upset by him videotaping her. She was upset. And then you heard her voice when she called 911. She wanted to agitate the situation. She wanted to make it seem like it was a lot worse than it was. But,
and what's interesting is it seems like white women know that if you're a white man, and I'm gonna separate them, because people say, D, it's not all white men, it's not all white people. Cool. If you're a white supremacist male, let's be very clear. And white supremacy still exists. Earlier, Jefferson said racism, but we're going to call that spade a spade, and we're going to call it white supremacy, which says that the white man is superior. There's no facts other than military power and killing folk to back that claim up. But they're superior. The Black man is inferior. They're subordinate to any white person in any kind of way. So when those type of systems are pervasive in education, law enforcement, healthcare, housing, criminal justice, you name it, that is pervasive in every system in America. But right now, since we're talking about law enforcement, so then it sounds like you're saying that in a white supremacist law enforcement system, then it is necessary to have cameras where the civilians can videotape, where police have to have body cams, because that is the only thing that will keep a police's word. And we know police lie, law enforcement lie, the state's attorney's office lie, because they try to keep their man off the hook. And so therefore, one thing I'm hearing you say that we must be able to videotape, because I do remember a little while ago, law enforcement was trying to make it a crime to be able to record a police officer, but that was overturned. So we got to keep that legislation strong. Thank you. Now let's go a little bit deeper. What do you think we need right now that can calm the anger, the hostility? What does America need right now, and what focus, what area?
I'm gonna address the George Floyd situation right now.
Because that was the spark.
What needs to happen right now to stop the protest, because I really don't think it's gonna stop until this happens, is whenever there's a loss of life, we can create laws for that moving forward. But for right now, they need to arrest the other 3 officers. There were 2 other officers that were there and that were holding Mr. Floyd's body down, and there was another officer that was keeping the people that were there,
the Blue Shield,
back at bay. Okay, so all of them need to be brought in, and a thorough and fair investigation need to be done, but not necessarily by the police department, because
no one trusts them.
Expect the police to uphold the laws if they're the ones that are breaking the laws. So now we need to know who's policing the police. And it needs to be an outside entity, because if it's somebody that they're friends with, it's easy to persuade your friend to say this is what happened. Absolutely. As opposed to that. And so I think the only way you can do that is by bringing all parties in and making an arrest on all parties. And then once that arrest's done, you get a third party. See, we went back to the third party again. You get a third party to do a thorough investigation, a thorough and fair investigation. And then one thing that I keep bringing up, because I'm sure they're going to do a background check and drug and alcohol testing on Mr. Floyd, who was on the ground dead. But what about those police officers? What about the background of those police officers? What about their files? What about if they have any drugs in their system or alcohol in their system? We just let people go home all willy-nilly with their weapon. The guns still have gunpowder on it, still smoking, and they go home and get in their beds. We got to make sure that we have assurances in place that we know that what was his state of mind at the time, because you're never going to be able to prove somebody's intent. I've learned that the hard way. You can't prove somebody's intent, whether it be on a local level, a state level, or federal level, because we dealt with the Department of Justice. You cannot get into somebody's brain and think about what they were thinking about at the time. But you certainly can look at some other evidence that was there at the scene. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you bring all parties in. This is exciting. So time out. I had a meeting today, and I can't tell you who, why, where, and when. All men. You'll tell me. I will tell you later. All men, they were sheriff represented, law enforcement represented, NFL represented, community activists represented, mayors represented, and everyone is saying this has to end. One guy said, well, maybe we can start talking to kids about becoming a police officer. I said, that's some bush stuff. I said, ain't nobody got time to talk about. That's just one thing that they can do, because I've heard that before, and I've heard community policing. Correct. Well, see, all that's good, but that's long term. And I said, no, we need something that we can do in the next 3 days. And so one of the things that came up is we need to look at police contracts. Because what you just said right now, all of that is negotiated in the contract. So I'm talking to you right now, but I'm talking to everybody else listening around the world. Anyone who says, what can we do? You can get with the mayor. You can get with whether it's a state's attorney or whatever. They have to review these police contracts, because in these contracts, they have embedded language that covers the police from almost all wrongdoing. Like, you can't interview a police officer as soon as the scene is. But if I kill somebody, they're going to interview me right then and right there. So we need to get exactly what the accurate statement of that police, because what happens is when they got 48 hours to rehearse it, to review it, to plan it, to have this Academy Award-winning presentation that they deliver to the public, then it's altered. The other thing that you said is very true. They do not take police blood. They do not see where their alcohol and drug level is, because some of these law enforcement agencies could be high. What the fried chicken? So if that's going on and there's no accountability, so there's things we can do right now, this week, next week. We can't wait for no. Even if they review a contract, it's very hard. I have been involved in unions by working for Miami-Dade County. So of course I was in the government unions, but it's hard to change a contract. It takes a long time. It's a back and forth. They start with the current contract and they make revisions to it, and then it goes between both parties until they agree on certain things, until they can agree on that contract. That takes a while. It won't take any time for them to call those people in and say, listen, officer this, officer that, you're under arrest. Time out. Hey, you on conversations with DB now, and I got some smart people. I just got a text from Carla D that said, I just joined, but in case you guys missed it, Chauvin is now charged with second-degree murder, and the 3 other officers have been charged and abetting second-degree murder. One is in custody, and they're in the process of bringing it to the other 2. What you talking about? Okay, excuse me, I lost my dignity for a second. So, Sybrina Fulton, they have been charged. How do you feel about that? I feel awesome. It's not going to bring George Floyd back, which we're going to hear. But guess what? At least we're holding somebody accountable for his death. There was a loss of life. People don't understand that. It was a loss of life. Whenever there's a loss of life, somebody needs to be held accountable.
Absolutely. So now we know they have been, but that don't mean you stop protesting just yet. So do you feel better about that?
I absolutely feel better about that.
I absolutely do too.
I think they're moving into the right direction. Now, that's just step one. The arrest is step one. Now comes, the depositions. Now comes the evidence. Correct. Now comes all of these things. They got to get a good pool of attorneys, and they have to defend George.
Correct.
And at the same time, it needs to be fair and impartial. And so how do you do that if people continue to shoot and kill Black and brown boys and men, women, girls? How do you bring justice to an unjust system? Mm-hmm. The system is unjust.
Correct.
And so how do you bring that into? They're gonna have to bring in a third party. They're gonna have to bring somebody from the outside in order to try to be fair about what's going on. Other than that, their co-workers are gonna be the ones that investigate them. Somebody at the DA's office is gonna
not gonna happen.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying. They're gonna have to change the whole makeup of that. Whenever there's a loss of life, it has to happen.
Got it. In my book, The Stop, Improving Police and Community Relations, you just hit the third point, accountability. Because if I'm investigating you, no matter what you did, I'm not going to give you the just punishment that you deserve. So I'm hearing a few things, because right now everybody's talking about solutions. At some point, the anger is going to subside. At some point, the police precincts that are burning down, all the embers and the smoke is going to clear up. So then what do? One, if a police officer, because there's a time when a police officer is supposed to shoot legally and lawfully. So no one's talking about not doing your job legally and lawfully. We're talking about unnecessarily police brutality. We're talking about excessive use of force. We're talking about murder, taking someone's life unnecessarily. So now that's an extreme, because when I understand and talking to and work with many law enforcement agencies, they tell me that those kind of police are a stain to the badge, and they don't want those guys on the department. And I always say, well, what are you doing to get them off? Or you aiding and abetting them? Are you shielding them? So one thing I heard you say is, when this happens, it needs to be an arrest. It needs to be statements made from the police, not waiting 48 hours. They need to have a statement as soon as they get arrested, and they need to be arrested quickly. We need to do drug tests for police. Then we need to have drug and alcohol, absolutely. Because here's what's interesting. In Chicago, the suicide rate amongst police is 6 times higher than the national average. So if your suicide rate is that high, we have to do drug tests and alcohol tests, because you don't know what's going on with these law enforcement. That's nothing against it, but I'm just saying we need to make sure that in all professional cases. So let me ask you this question. When I worked for Johnson & Johnson, if I got in trouble, if I curse somebody out on the job, I get reprimanded. They may send me through anger management training, but if I do it again, I'm probably gonna get fired. Why do you think police officer, in the case of this police, you can have 14 complaints against you? And someone said, yeah, but it could be someone who just doesn't like the police, but you got 14 racial complaints, you got 14 assault complaints, you got all of these aggressive complaints against you, and you telling me you can stay on the force? What should law enforcement be doing, and what should the community be doing to hold police accountable? Because I guarantee you at least 5 to 10% of their police officers got 15, 20 or more complaints. What should happen there?
I just like with everything else. I mean, if you got in a car accident, I worked for the government for 20 plus years. And if I got in a car accident, guess what? I had to do a drug and alcohol test. I had to stay there and wait for my supervisor to come, and I had to do a drug and alcohol test. They want to know what state of mind, what condition were you in at the time. Not saying that everybody is on drugs and everybody is, drinking alcohol while they're at work, but it happens. And so we need to know about these things. We need to know what's going on with that. I don't think the punishment and it's not universal, meaning in some departments, when they have 2, 3 reprimands, they continue a process of disciplinary actions. But some of them you can have 100. And if you know the people, that's the problem, is if you know the people that you're working with and you're friends with them, they're playing golf with them, they having dinner with their families and stuff like that, well, nothing is going to happen. And so that's why it's so important about that third party again, that you have somebody coming in, that you have somebody that's on the community relations board, that you have somebody that's speaking up for the people that's on the outside. Because if it's just people on the inside, then they're going to continue to do wrong. They're going to continue business as usual and everything like it's like they're an ideal officer. But I need to say this as well. Whenever I can get arrested as a police officer, the police officers that got arrested, they got arrested on a murder charge. Guess what? In any position, remember they lost their job, they got fired, right? Well, you can get fired for being late for work too many times. So you can tell me that the same exact punishment for being late for work is the same punishment for taking a loss of life. And so we got to look at some things like that. You know, people don't understand how serious this is because it's African American. Correct. But that's why it's so important that that video was in place.
So time out. I just heard something powerful that you said. Right. Yeah.
We have a question from Facebook. I'll let you finish.
Facebook.
And then I'll read.
So we finally got Facebook up and running too? All right. I tell you what, hold on, right before you get there. So what I'm hearing, Sybrina, and I agree with that, I can get fired for coming late to work consistently. I can kill someone and get fired. So you're saying murder requires more than just being fired, because what the reality is, you can go get hired the next week at another police department and they don't even worry about your record, what happened at the other place. So is that policy? Does that need to be in law? What needs to happen there? Because people who are watching this, there's some soldiers out here who are ready to implement change. Black soldiers, white soldiers, young soldiers, old soldiers. And they're like, this bullshit snagglefoot stuff is going to end. And today in the meeting I was in, the men said, we failed our kids because we saw Rodney King and we did nothing about it. So now our kids get to see George Floyd. So not until communities stand up and say, this is not going to happen again. And if it does happen again, the consequences will be swift. I believe there's only two things that stops white supremacist actions or modify their behavior. One is a loss of revenue. Two is a loss of life. Whether that loss is of your life is you're dead or whether you're locked up or whatever it is, but you don't have the life that you used to have. So it sounds like you're saying that life needs to be dramatically impacted and those revenues need to be dramatically impacted because these white supremacists, particularly white boys, gonna have to change their action, change their language, realize that this so-called superior they grandpappy and lied to them about is a lie, because that's why their grandpappy was trying to go to the black woman in the first place. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. So then how do we do that?
So this is what the deal is. It should not be that if you are late for work and if you have a loss of life while you're at work and you take someone's life, that is the same punishment. And that's why I said it has to be more to it than that. I mean, they have to have things in place so that the punishment fits the crime. You can't be late for work and then just nonchalantly, okay, you got fired, you go home, you get in your bed. You kill somebody, you go home and get in your bed. It has to be more to it when it's Correct. A loss of life. And that's all I'm saying, regardless of what color skin the person is. Because I always think about why is it that we never see, or almost never, I'm gonna say almost never see
black cop killing a white person.
Killing white people and they're, nothing happens. Nobody is arrested, nothing happens to them. The reason why it doesn't happen because the black officers already know that they're gonna be arrested. They already know that. And so if you already know that, you do preventive measures like
Correct.
the white officers should be doing. And I'm not going to say all officers, because I cannot say all officers are bad.
And let's say this, neither one of us are talking about all officers. I think the majority of police officers are decent people. But Chris Rock said something very powerful. He said, we cannot keep saying it's just a few bad apples. Can you imagine the airline industry saying, hey, we just got a few bad apple pilots who like to fly into mountains? You're going to want to take your chances with those few bad apples and get on that plane. No, you cannot have any bad apples in law enforcement to the degree of white supremacy racists who vow to kill and destroy Black people. Zero bad apples.
Yeah, but zero bad apples is a good concept. But in reality, we have to make sure that our good officers have a mechanism where they can feel comfortable with telling their supervisors, their sergeant, their lieutenants, their captains, we're feeling comfortable with telling them what really happened at the scene. They don't feel comfortable telling what happened at the scene. That's why you see the bad officers, they write up the report and the other ones sign it. Meaning, okay, I co-signed on what you said. So whatever you said, that's what happened. That's not necessarily what happened, because they don't have a mechanism in place where they can come to their superiors, they can come to their supervisors, they can come to whoever that's over them in rank to tell them, listen, this is what really happened at the scene.
Got it. Let me ask you this question.
Before you ask the question,
Oh yeah. Hold on, I'm coming right to you. The minimum requirement to become a police officer is graduating high school and some college. It might be an associate's of arts degree. It might be a little bit less. And we know that America, even though we consider the first world nation, we don't have a lot of college educated people. The majority of Americans are not college educated. So then how will we find this pool of highly qualified, educated professionals becoming police officers when it seems like the majority of them don't have a graduate degree in terms of local law enforcement, not FBI and things of that nature, because they are on a whole different level in state police. What should the minimum requirements be?
Well, that's not a requirement that's across the board. That's not a requirement in all police departments. You just have to have a high school diploma.
Correct.
And be between a certain age bracket, because you have to be able to pass the training. And I'll talk about that probably in my next book, about me becoming a police officer. But
about who becoming a police officer?
Well, there was a interest and it got squashed because of some things. But I'm just gonna say this: they have about 9 months training. I believe it's a 9 months training period.
14 weeks. 14 weeks.
Right. So they have to do the training period, but that's other than high school education. You don't have to have any college, but I think what they need to do is make sure that you have other officers that pretty much ask the right questions when it comes to that. I know we got to check their friends and family, but you're going to tell your friends and family, listen, I'm going through the police screening. Okay, make sure you put in a good word for me. But right. Now, what about the ones that the people that went to school with you, that knew that you were a troublemaker, or knew that you were a clown in school, or knew that you wasn't very smart in school and you barely made it through? Those are the ones they really need to talk to. They really need to talk to some teachers. Or
you had some implicit biasness, or you called black people niggers in school and you didn't like the black teacher and you slit their tires and all of this stuff. That stuff is very important.
That's why they do a lot of social media. They check a lot of people's social media and they go back to day one from when they started on social media. So a lot of our young people don't really realize that when you go for a job, when you go for the entrance to a college, they're looking at those type of things because they want to try to see what type of person you are. They check your credit. They doing all of these things. You got to have a physical. They want to check all of these things so that they can see what kind of person you are.
Right. All right, Jefferson, Noel, come on, baby. What's the question from Facebook?
All right. So we have two questions. One I'm going to direct towards you, Dwayne, because you are you spent a lot of time in Chicago. You have a large network there. And the second question I'm going to direct towards Sybrina Fulton. So the question for you, Dwayne, someone named Nakia asks, my cousin Beatrice Goodman is still waiting on justice for her son, Jamel Robinson from Chicago. He is the security guard that was shot and killed by police. What can she do to seek justice? For Sybrina Fulton, we have a question from Tiffany knows, she is a community leader. She is a business owner, and she is a professor at Barry University. She's asking, how should we facilitate recovery for young Black children who are now afraid of police or are afraid of white people?
All right, so I will take the first question. I was trying to find something, but I don't see it. It's got dog. Oh, here it is. So I don't always share all the stuff that I'm doing, but I'm on a civilian board of COPA. That's the Civilian Office of Police Accountability in Chicago. This organization was founded because IPRA was the old police accountability, but they almost pretty much rubber stamped anything that the police did. So COPA is designed to have checks and balances. So if a police does a shooting or there's a domestic violence with the police, they have to come before and the COPA review board reviews it. So what I would tell this young lady is to go to COPA, I believe it's copa.org, and she can file a formal complaint. If she don't do that, tell her to send her information here in this chat. And what I will do, I will literally personally deliver it to, because I just got off the phone with COPA today. We're getting ready to partner on some things, to the right people who can investigate that. Let me say this. Many of the times we've looked at complaints and stuff, sometimes the police do shoot lawfully. So every time, obviously, the person whose family member was affected, they always believe that the police was racist. That's not always the case. So we have to look at many different things. Like sometimes we're looking at 10 different cameras and different views because other people don't always see everything. They only believe what their cousin told them. And sometimes their cousin is in that life, that drug life, that gang life, then all the rules are fair and all the rules are equal. So therefore, if you're in their lifestyle and you get popped, sometimes that's just what happened, and that was lawfully and legal. So have her to send her information here, but first have her to go to COPA herself and do her own due diligence. And if she doesn't get anything there, then I can help with the people I know. Sybrina.
Okay, so the question was about recovering from this. We're gonna have to first wait until everything that's going on kind of settles down a little bit. Hopefully it'll settle down with the arrests that were made today. And we can move forward. But for young people, I tell young people, you know, like as I travel and I speak to them, they don't want to have kids. And I was like, oh my God, I never even thought of that. Like, you know, young people, you know, their mind thinks a different way than ours. And so I never in all my days ever thought that this would impact them that particular way. Wow. And they don't want to have kids because they believe that, listen, why should I have a baby? Why should I have a son or a daughter when I have to worry about if my son or daughter is going to be treated, is going to be racially profiled or discriminated against or shot and killed? They rather not even go through that by not having any kids. And it that right there bothers me. But to the point of them moving forward with their lives, I want them to just band together. I want them to understand what is going on, that this is a build up for many years, and that it's okay to have a peaceful protest. It's okay. And like they say on social media, a lot of people asking, what would Martin Luther King do? Well, he had peaceful protests and they killed him too. You know, so sometimes you feel like you've done all you can do. I just say never give up. Never give up on whatever your dreams are. Never give up on whatever your focus are. I was just on a call before this with Desmond Meade and some other people, and he said that when he first started with Amendment 4, with restoring the rights to convicted felons, he said it was just him. He said, and then people started just coming together. So just follow your vision. Don't worry about what's going on around you, because when the smoke clears, you want to make sure that you're still walking out of the fire. You know, we're going to go through some things. We go through some things as people, but you got to know, you got to believe in yourself, and you got to believe that whatever it is, it's through the valley. Psalms 23 tells you through the valley. It does not say to the valley. So you will make it on the other side. You just got to make sure that you are strong. You know, you're going to have your weak days, but you just keep moving forward.
So I know you're running for commissioner. So we start calling you commissioner now, or do we have to wait till the election?
No, you have to call me commissioner now, because the Bible tells you to speak things that are not as though they were. All
right, well, Commissioner Fulton. Now, you just said something interesting. And let's take a look at white supremacy in this situation. So white supremacy, racism killed George Floyd. Then people went out and looted. And a lot of people from outside of the community who don't look like us came into our community looting. And what was amazing to me, I saw Black people talking to and negotiating with these people versus busting them across their doggone head. Because how you letting these people deface your neighborhood? But yet, if it was me, you'd be ready to knock me out. But yet, so white supremacy is so powerful that it will even tell you this person is destroying my own community, but I'm so weak that I won't even do anything to them except negotiate with them.
It's not a matter of being weak. I think what happened was a lot of those people were surprised. It startled them that you seen somebody that was not your same complexion that was writing Black Lives Matter on the walls. That was like, oh my God. Like every time we say Black Lives Matter, we had other people saying all lives matter. So now not only are you saying Black Lives Matter, but you spray painting it on the wall. So that took them, you know, it took them back, and they didn't quite understand what was going on. They didn't know that they had infiltrators in there. When we saw the news, you got to look at the big picture. The big picture was there were a lot of young people. There were a lot of African Americans, but there was a lot of white people that were standing with us, and we have to give them credit.
Absolutely, and I thank our allies.
And just acknowledging that was a human being, that a human being's life was taken, and how serious that was. And so we got to give them credit for that. And I said on my Facebook page, on my social media pages, I said the ones that came out there to protest were protesting. The ones that came out there to loot, they were looting. The looters were looting. Okay. So you couldn't get a person like me that came out there for a peaceful protest. Now I'm in Foot Locker stealing shoes. No, because that wasn't my intentions. My intentions was, let me stand, let me say Black Lives Matter, let me say justice for George Floyd, let me say what I need to say, because that's what I came for. Or did I put on my sneakers and say, child, let's go, and we getting ready to throw some big rocks in these stores. What size shoes you wear?
Right.
You know,
so you saying looters came out to loot, and the protesters came out to protest, and don't conflate the two. I like that. I like that. So let's look at this whole vacuum.
You also had the infiltrators, the people that came out there just to instigate stuff, just to start the fires, and just to shove the police. Right. And they was doing some things that we would never even think of doing.
Never think of doing. Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
The only thing that we probably would do is crowd up, and we doing our chants, we doing our walking, we doing whatever we doing. We got our shirts on. We came out there to protest. Yeah. But then you have people that came out there for a different reason, and we have to recognize those people as well.
Absolutely, we have to. Now, real quick, Jefferson, because I know, can you believe it's been an hour already? Jefferson, I need some more time. You ain't ready for us to stop. Can we have some more time, Jefferson, and Beata and Tavares? Can we have more time?
Yes, sir, we can.
Perfect. Okay, so let's look at this vacuum. White supremacy killed George Floyd. White supremacy must be destroyed in every system that it exists in. George Floyd's dead. Now the people are looting. Now the people coming in and destroying the neighborhoods. Now gentrification come in because the people who are destroying the neighborhoods, and if you're destroying your own neighborhood, now the property value go down, and therefore people can come in and buy your junk cheap. People are saying, I don't want to have kids. People are going through depression, poor health, and all of this stuff. White supremacy, they were talking about COVID, that Black people were dying at a higher rate. I honestly believe part of this was because our immune system, our depression, our stress is greater. And I think white supremacy is killing Black people on an emotional level. So the AMA just announced that police brutality, white supremacy, and all this stuff is a national pandemic, and it's affecting health. But we as Black people, we got to realize, hey, yo, this has been here for centuries. What am I going to do so we can mitigate, so we can lessen the impact? So here's my question to you. How do we lessen the impact individually of white supremacy so that we're not dying early, so we're not walking around, when you see the average Black man walking around, he walking around mean mugging. And I always say Black men need to learn how to smile. So what do we do individually that we can do for ourselves to lessen the harmful, harsh impact of white supremacy?
Okay, so what we have to do is what's occurring now. It's not just, like I said, it's not just African Americans that's out there protesting. We have to commend the others that are out there with us. You know, I've seen Mexican people. I've seen, you know, just white people. I've seen like all nationalities, Latinos, you know, blacks, everybody came together. We united together because they saw what we saw. They're never gonna feel what we feel, but they absolutely saw what we saw. And that was somebody to take a life. You know, we can't be so nonchalant. We can't be so nonchalant. And then they won't be so nonchalant. So we got to continue to talk about these things. We got to continue to say, what part was the worst part for you? Was it the part where he had his knee on his neck, or the part that he called out for his mom, or the part that he didn't get arrested, or the part that they lit fires, or the part that they were looting? You know what I'm saying? You have to really bring it to them like that, so that they understand the reason why all of those other things occur, because the knee was on the neck. Let's not get out of focus. Let's stay in focus with what happened. There was somebody's knee on somebody's neck, which is a sign of disrespect. You know, and you got to see it as that. And they have to see it as that. So we want to make them see it, but they're never going to feel it. You're never going to feel it unless you can see yourself in George Floyd.
Absolutely. There's a movement to defund police. What do you think about that? The movement to defund law enforcement police.
No, when I call 911, I need the police to come.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Absolutely. So we need police. We just need good police. All right, let's see.
We need people that, and when you say good police, you want police with the right mindset. That's not going to say, okay, I don't like this group of people and I need to cause some type of harm to them, where they are not only am I going to arrest them and cause havoc in their life, but kill them. We have to have police where we have to say, okay, well, I don't like these people, like I don't like frogs, but guess what? I'm not going to go out the door and kill them. I don't like iguanas, but I'm not going to go out the door and kill them. I'm just going to stay away from them, and they're going to stay away from me. And that's
a powerful statement, Sybrina. That's a power. You don't kill anything just because you don't like it. You can agree to disagree. You can respectfully not approach it or whatever it is. I like that. Someone named Jessica said, you are absolutely amazing. She has to go. She's so sorry she got to go, but you're amazing. You got another question? Because I see Brother Noel done popped up again.
So we have a question from Bryant Robinson. He's 16 years old and he's from Miami, Florida. And he's asking, 16 years old, he's asking, what courses do you believe future officers should be required to take prior to becoming officers and interacting with civilians? Sensitivity training, courses in tolerance, etc.
Perfect.
I think one of the things that they need to take a conflict resolution class. And you know a lot about that.
I teach it.
Yeah, exactly. And they just need some type of sensitivity class. I don't know if they do videos where they show maybe a scenario happening, and it's happening to a black family, it's happening to a white family, it's happening to a Hispanic family, so that they can see that everybody has a heart, everybody has family, everybody has loved ones. And you have to understand, when you kill somebody's loved one, you can't expect those people to like you, continue to like you, you know?
Absolutely.
So we just got to be mindful of things. And I think a lot of times we get distracted from what the focus should be.
You know, you said something powerful. I agree. Conflict resolution, because it talks about so many different things. Implicit, explicit bias training. There's a gentleman, Atiba Goff. He speaks about that. He trains on that. But right now, Mayor Lori Lightfoot in Chicago is saying we got to do something different. We have to do training. So if there's anybody watching this, let Mayor Lightfoot know I can come in and train your police on conflict resolution and on a whole lot of different things. But also mental illness. We got to be able to talk to them about how do you approach different people, because someone with autism is going to respond differently from that police. They may not even know, you know, how to interact properly with the police, and the police sees them as a threat. Conflict resolution. Oh, de-escalation. When I did some work with the Indiana State Police, Officer Aaron Weller, this guy right here, he said that they take this thing called verbal judo. I said, what is verbal judo? He said, just like judo is practicing fighting and self-defense, he said they practice with people cursing them out. They practice with people, you know, doing everything except laying their hands on them so they can learn how to de-escalate a situation. A lot of these police officers are not trained in any verbal judo, no de-escalation. So if you take it here, they're trained to go there. And if you go here, then they train to go here. So they're always using their brute force and strength instead of their minds to be able to de-escalate a situation. So whoever that 16-year-old brother is, Noel, please tell them thank you very much, because we really here for the young people, to get them thinking, to get them strategizing, to get them making demands, to get them strategically planning a way beyond these next few days of pure emotion. Did you have anything else to add for that?
Hopefully he becomes a police officer.
Yes. Or state's attorney or judge.
Yes, yes. And Bryant clarified, she said, I'm a girl.
So, and thanks, Bryant. I appreciate that. Girl power.
I'm sorry, that's right.
So we have a question from Krista Smith. She is the co-president of the FIU Young Alumni Network. FIU! And so she has a great question. She's asking, do you see any solutions in our education systems?
Well, let me answer that too. You can also answer it, but one of the things that when I do become commissioner, I want to put officer friendly back in the schools, you know, because right now you have a lot of young people that's afraid of police officers, and we just have to tell them, just like with teachers, you have some good teachers, you have some bad teachers, you have some good lawyers, you have some bad ones, and you have some good officers and some bad officers. And we got to let them know that. And we got to let them know, for the most part, what police officers' duties are. They're there to protect and serve. It's just some incidences that they see now, which discourage them from wanting to be a police officer, which discourage them from wanting to be around police officers. And now we've gotten to the point where our young people are running from police officers because they don't know what's going to happen to them based on what they're seeing in front of their face on social media, on the news and things like that. So we just got to put like faith back into the police department and police system. I was on a call last night with the chief of police here in Miami, and I just believe that she is a good person. You know, she's an absolutely good person. She got kids of her own. She's an African-American woman, and she believes in the system. And so we gotta weed out those bad people so that our good police officers can protect and serve.
Absolutely. In addition to, I would also say, even in the education system, we have to do a better job of teaching history, right? So growing up, I used to be a bully, I used to fight, but then when I got taught my history and who I am as a people, I went to Egypt, I went into the pyramids, and the people who built the pyramids are Black. They always taught us that they were these other people, and to the point that they were even aliens, but not giving Black people history. When you don't know that all people, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, the Nubians of Africa, civilization began in Africa, the Olmecs, the Aztecs, when you understand that every group of people had a chance to advance and to participate in the advancement of civilization, then you're less likely to be racist or think your race is the only people who've ever accomplished anything. So once you have that level of respect for other people and that regards for other people, then it's very difficult to treat them worse than a dog, because you have a level of humanity about yourself. And the other thing is, I did some work with Jane Elliott, and she said there's only one race, the human race. And I absolutely believe that. So in educational systems, we have to be able to get back to teaching history from a holistic perspective, the accuracy of history, not just whitewashing of what white people have done to contribute to the world and no one else had anything else. So even if these law enforcement agencies had some Black history lessons, then I think they'll be less likely to doing some of the things they're doing as well.
I think that's very, very powerful. And I'm curious to know who used to bully, but we could speak about that later. So we have a question on Facebook from Ebony Dorcelis. She asks, do you think it's possible for officers to be required to seek therapy on a monthly basis to ensure they are not emotionalized when responding to civilians?
Say that one more time.
Do you think it's possible?
Do police officers need counseling on a monthly basis?
Oh, well, yeah. Can I take a time out for a second? My father was a police officer, right? I'm not anti-police. Police see the worst that society has to offer every single day, every 15, every 20 minutes. You're not calling the police and say, hey, officer, I just want to say, hey, show you the pictures of my grandkids. They're in college right now. No, you call them because somebody just hit somebody, stabbed somebody, shot somebody, killed somebody. So literally, law enforcement people are some very special people, and let's give them some props real quick. But They need counseling. They need social services. They need the things because the level of ugly that they see, that's why someone told me don't ever date a police officer because they just so used to seeing ugly all the time. So do they need counseling? Absolutely. And it should not be stigmatized either because sometimes if you go to counseling, it's stigmatized like, okay, you're just a wuss, you can't handle it, you're not strong enough. So counseling needs to be available for every law enforcement officer, and they need to have a full-time person in every department to be able to provide those services.
Yeah, but usually it's but let me say this too. My dad was a police officer as well, so I know.
What?
Yeah, so I know for a fact that not all police officers are bad. I didn't even realize how much money that they had until I became an adult. You know, we had a police officer's income and we had a postal worker income, so we was doing really good. I didn't even.
So you were middle class?
Yeah, yes.
Somebody told me you were a thug. I'm gonna tell them don't tell me that no more.
But oh, I don't forgot now. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate that. So what I want to do, literally, I typed up all these questions and we haven't hardly gotten to any in our time. So if I may just hit some questions, we're going to do a rapid round robin. Okay, I have another question. This is very powerful. I would like to ask, what type of parent were you? Were you strict? Were you liberal? What kind of parent were your children?
Unfortunately, I was pretty strict.
Okay. No, that's fortunate. That's good.
Well, I think it was a balance while we were still married. While I was still married, it was a balance. Tracy is more, to me, he's more of the Disneyland dad. And that's what I used to call him. Like, the kids would be gone with him for the weekend and then they would come back. Now you have to make sure. I had to help with science projects. I had to make sure school clothes were washed and ready to go. I had to make sure homework was done. You know, he did haircuts and shoes and I did clothes, you know. So you're
the disciplinarian.
Yeah. So
and he was the good guy.
Right. I had to go do your homework. Don't get up from that table until you. So that was me. But I made sure that because I've had a good childhood, I wanted to make sure that they experienced what I experienced plus. So at one particular point, I had sat them down and I told them, listen, I work for Miami-Dade County. I have a good job with good benefits. And so you have to do that plus. I said, I have a bachelor's degree. You have to get a master's degree or a PhD. I told them I have one house and one car. You need 2 houses and 2 cars. So I pushed them because I wanted to make sure they had more than me because of the next generation. They were the next generation coming up. So I wanted them to do better than what I did. I provided.
Okay, we can't get the long answer. We got a lot. Did you ever talk to your son about the movement and racism and other circumstances that we see now?
No, not to the extent that it is right now. Not to this extent.
I'm doing a slow motion on you.
No, the reason why I had to talk to one of my sons was because he went to a school and the school was predominantly white, and he would connect with, you know, white people. So he was around a lot of white people, and he was going to this dinner party, and he was the only black person that was going to be there. So that brought about some conversation about black and white and about him being different. And I wanted him to just recognize if he's being treated differently, if people said things to him, and how would he feel. I didn't want him to walk in there blindly. So I had to talk about those things with him. And that's how it started. And he was pretty young. He was like in middle school when this first happened. He might've been like, I don't know, maybe 12, maybe 11, 12 years old.
Okay, so you're saying you did talk to him or you didn't?
Yes, but not to this extent. Like they never experienced the rioting and the burning down buildings and this, that, and the other, because what we had here was prior to that. I remember Rodney King was what year was Rodney King? Okay,
early 90s.
Yeah, long time.
Right, and they were too young, you know, and so when something happened, and then they had
riots. Did you teach them their history and stuff like that?
Yes, so we talked about different things because we had to. Like I would watch the news and the news would be on, and when something came up, I had to talk to them about it because I didn't want them to learn from one of their friends and they get the wrong information. Go.
Correct. All right. Ooh, this is gonna be powerful. Ooh. This is from a licensed family therapist, Manishka Santil. She writes, do you think the relationship between you and your ex impacted your sons, Trayvon Martin and your other son?
No. When we first got divorced, they didn't even know we was divorced. Okay. So I would say no, because it was a nice little balance there. It's like they even got two parties. Like I would do a party with my friends and family for their birthday, and he would do a party with his friends and family for their birthday. So they got both worlds. They didn't even know that we wasn't married for a long period of time.
Really?
They thought that he was staying in a different location. No, they didn't know we was divorced.
Listen, you may have to give some parenting courses to families who are divorced because it's not all as smooth as you have. All right, Chicago asks.
Wait, I had to do a lot of behind the scenes talking now.
Okay, got you. Chicago, what advice do you have for other mothers or anyone who's lost a loved one to racism, and what would you tell them, and how would you tell them to move forward?
I would tell them to work through it, because when you stay busy, you really don't have time to focus on all the negative things. It's like when you keep working, you see all the blessings that you receive. You don't see the things that you don't have. Well, you don't really realize the things that you don't have because you're so busy and you have a goal in mind and you're trying to work towards that goal, and you don't have time to sit and complain and be worried and just your mind drifting off. You have a focus in mind, and that's what I managed to do. I managed to stay focused on whatever I was working on. I stayed focused on that, and I can honestly say that about myself. That's what I talk about in my circle of mothers, like staying focused. They really have to stay focused on whatever they're working on, and it's best to stay busy.
What is the circle of mothers for those who don't know? I've seen it in action. I know it's powerful, but what is the circle of mothers for those who don't know?
The circle of mothers is a dream that I had, and I started writing the dream down and everything, and you know a lot about it, but it's about mothers who come together once a year. I bring them in here to Miami, and it's about them being empowered. It's about them healing, and it's about them moving into the next step. Like, what is your next chapter? We know that your son died. We know that your daughter died, and we know which manner they died in. Now what? Are you going to stay on the ground and you're just going to look up to everybody and say, okay, I fell down. Or are you going to get back up and say, okay, let me take care of these things? And that's what I did. I took care of these things, and I was like, okay, everybody know that I lost my son to gun violence. Everybody know who Trayvon Martin is. Okay, so I could have chosen to stay down on the ground and just cry and be sad and depressed. But when I looked in the mirror, that's not what I wanted to see. And so you have to make a conscientious decision that that's not who you want to be. And once you make that decision, you're going to move forward because you're going to want to know what your next chapters are.
Let me ask you this. Is it easy for a parent? Because my sister lost her son, and I'm telling you, it was like somebody ripped a piece of her heart out. How do you move forward when you really just want to close the blinds? You really just want to close the doors. You don't want to be bothered. Leave me alone. And you just want to cry. It seems like forever. How do you move forward?
As long as you want to cry, that's where you're going to be. As long as you want to be depressed, that's where you're going to be. You have to make a conscientious decision that I do not want to be here. When I looked in that mirror and I seen how sad and depressed I was, and I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be on that street. I didn't want to be where I was, but I didn't know how to come out of where I was. But once I made the decision that I did not want to be there, I took some steps in order not to be there. And a lot of times those steps are heavy and we don't want to take them alone. But guess what? People don't know the power that they have within. Somebody can come to your life and they can pray. And the pastor could pray, your mother could pray, your father could pray, all of these people, your friends, your family, everybody could pray for you. But guess what? When all of those people gone, when the smoke clears and when the cameras are gone, you're going to need yourself. And you have to know how to lift yourself up. And you got to say to yourself, okay, this is a bad day. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. What do I have planned for tomorrow? And you just got to get up and you got to lift yourself up by the bootstraps. And you got to say, listen, I'm not going to be that person on the ground crying all the time. That's not me.
You know, that's so powerful.
You got to move yourself.
Yeah, that's so powerful because it's not just about somebody dying. It could be losing a job. It could be a health
A
issue.
husband. It could be a husband.
Husband,
It could be a wife.
absolutely, absolutely.
Sometimes when people lose a job, that devastates them. You know what I'm saying? So it has to be something where, and I'm not telling anybody to not to grieve. I'm not telling you not to cry. I still grieve. I still cry. I still do all of those things. But guess what? At the end of the day, I know that, okay, today I'm sad, I'm crying, I'm this, I'm that. I don't want to put on no clothes. I just don't want to do anything. I don't want you to talk to me. I don't want you to touch me. Just leave me alone. You know, I have those days, and I understand that I'll allow myself to have those bad days. They have to allow themselves to have a bad day.
Yeah.
You got to allow yourself to have a bad day. You got to say, okay, today is not a good day. Tomorrow will be a better day. Yeah. And you got to just look forward to tomorrow. Like, okay, I'm going to cry myself to sleep today. I'm going to eat this ice cream today. I'm going to watch this movie. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to go get a massage. Whatever that day is consists of, okay, this is my sad day. And you can stay in the bed the whole day. You can sit in the closet the whole day. You can do whatever you want to the whole day. But you got to know that the sun will shine tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's what our young Van Zant said, cry with a purpose or cry with a mission. We have Willard Hart and Dwight Good, Dallas and Chicago, given all the passion around the murders of unarmed people and all the protests. What would you like people to do moving forward?
One of the things I want them to do is make sure they get out and vote and make sure that they register to vote so we can stop seeing some of these things that's going on right now. I also want them to connect with a nonprofit organization that's in their area. So people contact me all the time and say, what can I do? I live in Texas, I live in Detroit, I live in New York, and I want to help the Trayvon Martin Foundation. Well, you can help the Trayvon Martin Foundation by donating, by purchasing the merchandise or shopping online with the Trayvon Martin Foundation. But what can you do in your area? You can join a nonprofit. Now, whether that nonprofit be the Urban League, the National Action Network, the NAACP, or whatever that mechanism is in your community, connect with them because they are fighting for the rights of the unjust. And so we got to make sure that we have a mechanism for them to go to and say, listen, I want to volunteer my time. I want to write a check. What you need me to do? You need me to put some mailers out? I need to come to a meeting. It's some things that they can do right there in their own area. And I want to encourage people to do that.
Oh, that's love. What about the census? Because some people say they need to fill out the census so they can be accounted for where they are in their numbers.
That's absolutely correct. It slipped my mind, but definitely they need to fill out the census. You can even do it online. You don't necessarily have to fill out the one. Yeah, that they mail in. You can do the one online and be done with it.
Dakaria Corday from New Orleans says, how do you feel? Do you feel that justice is finally being served for your son's death with the world fighting back over George Floyd?
I can't help but feel like it's a good feeling. But remember, the person who shot and killed Trayvon is still walking around.
That sucker's still walking around.
Yeah, he's still walking around. But you know, I do have peace in my heart and I'm not worried about it. I can't worry about it. It's not for me to worry about. But I definitely understand the fight. I definitely stand with the protesters in Minneapolis. I'm thinking about going to a memorial. I don't know because I don't see a lot of people wearing their masks. And so that's kind of—
People not social distancing. I was in a meeting today and I'm like, am I the only one with a mask? It's like 16 people at the table. I'm like,
Yeah, I can't afford to get sick. I can't afford—
No, we cannot afford to get sick.
No, I just don't want to try to recuperate from being sick. So I'd rather not just catch it at all. So I think I'm gonna just send my condolences to the family and just stay home. I'm still at home. I'm still sheltering in place. I'm still, you know, I wear my mask anytime I walk out of my front door. You know, I'm still washing my hands. I don't wear the gloves anymore, but I'm still washing my hands. I'm still taking my vitamin C's and doing all of those things that we started off doing. And that's why I've been fairly healthy, I believe. And then again, nobody knows too much about this virus. We could have had it and it went away. So
I think I had it back in December.
To the point where I'm in the hospital on a respirator.
Got it. Jefferson, you had another question. I see you.
Yes, Dwayne. We have a question from Ishmael Joseph. He's also a community leader here in South Florida. He is changing the game for many young people in our city. And so Ishmael Joseph asked the question about his 10-year-old son, who first real experience with racism was him seeing what happened to George Floyd. And so Ishmael is asking, how do I help shape his perspective that not all officers are racist while still dealing with the internal fears that he has for both his life as a Black person?
I would say a couple of things, and you're correct. Not all officers are racist. And this is, I don't want to sound like a plug, but get his address and I'm going to send him a free copy of my book. Because in here, we talk about, I've had 17 police encounters since elementary school. My first one was elementary school, middle school, high school. I have a gash in the back of my head right here from college, and then throughout. I've never been arrested. I have no criminal history. Some of the encounters were absolutely fantastic and wonderful. Some of them were absolutely deadly, or could have been deadly. But what he has to understand is to teach his son and empower his son with accountability, personal responsibility, mutual respect, etc. Because when you see a police officer, if you feel fear, that means you've given them all your power. If you see a police officer to the point that you just want to run, that means that person has your power. What I teach the students in my book is that no one deserves all of your power. You have to know your rights. You have to know the Constitution. You have to know their rights. You have to know what it takes to become a police officer. And all of that stuff I talk about in my book, because if we can empower our young people, being empowered, being educated, being informed minimizes fear. Not having education, not being empowered, not being informed, fear goes up. A white supremacist wants you to be afraid because they literally want you to do something stupid. They want you to say something stupid. They want you to behave in an inappropriate way so that they can react to you in the way that they wanted to in the beginning. You cannot give them that kind of power. Our young people must maintain and must be empowered at all times. Even if the power is you are doing something wrong and you put your hands behind your back and you have to get arrested and you comply with the police officer, that also is power. Sybrina, did you want to add anything? You get
You stole a lot of my things that I was gonna say, but
that's all right. I got you. You'll get the next one. You'll get the next one.
I wanna tell the young man, like, I don't want him to be fearful of the police, but I want him to be mindful of the police. You know, I want him to know that yes, not all police officers are bad, and just make a comparison about teachers and make a comparison about fruit. You're talking about a 10-year-old young man, so you have to say, listen, some of these apples are good and some of them are bad. Some of these oranges are good, some of them bad. Like some of the mangoes that drop off the tree, they're good, and some of them are bad. So we got to know that it's good and bad in everybody, and so he has to know that going into it. The other thing is, I don't want him to be fearful. But at the same time, I don't want him to challenge authority either. I want him to comply so he can make it home safely. And then whatever happened on that scene, I want him to make sure that he gets home safely so he can tell his dad, he can tell his parent what happened and let the parent fight. One of the bad things about our young people knowing too many things about their rights and what people can and cannot do is they challenge them at the scene. And that's not a good thing either, because when you challenge somebody, sometimes it hurts their feelings, and when their feelings get involved, now I got to teach you, and so I just want them to make it home safely. I want his dad to be honest and open with him. I don't want him to sugarcoat anything. I want him to know, so I want him to explain to him so thoroughly that young man is able to explain it back to his dad, what he just taught him.
Right. And you know what? I just thought of something, Jefferson. I said, have that person to give us his address. I got one better than that. Amazon.com right now is giving away my book audio for free. So they can go to Amazon.com, put in the Stop Dwayne Bryant or the Stop Improving Police and Community Relations, but it's easier to Stop Dwayne Bryant. And they can literally be able to listen to the audio book with their children for free, because everything Sybrina just said is absolutely in the book. And therefore they can have intelligent conversation. There's discussion points at the end of each chapter where I ask questions to the parents, I ask questions to the students, students, and I ask questions to law enforcement. So that would be the easiest way. They can sit down over dinner, have this conversation, and it's me doing the audio book. And I think that's the best way to move forward with that one.
Well, let's do both. Go ahead and let them listen to the audio now, and then you still mail them a book, because it's another thing to have the book in hand.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Fulton. I'm sorry, Commissioner. Hey, I got a question from Trinidad. Trinidad asked Lisa Gomes, if you could have a conversation with Trayvon right now, what would you tell him?
I would probably squeeze the stuff inside of him and tell him, you don't even know what I've been through, son. But on a real note, he already know I miss him, because I talk to him all the time. So yeah. I tell people that not even the death of my son would separate me from the love of my son. So of course my son is deceased, and I'm not going crazy or anything in my head, but I still talk to my son. I still love my son a great deal, and I could feel the love that he loves me. He's proud of me. He supports me. And so, we have conversations all the time, because I tell him, oh, I don't have a name because these people call me Trayvon Martin Mom. They don't know I have another son.
Got it. I have a question from a Minneapolis mom. It says, anonymous white Minneapolis mom. What can moms of millennials do to support what's going on beyond the protests to actions and solutions?
One of the things is what I mentioned earlier about connecting with a nonprofit organization, making sure they register voters and they get out and vote. That when they receive the summons letter for jury duty, that they're not thinking of ways to get out of jury duty, but they're, exercising their right, and their civic involvement, and make sure they go to jury duty and not try to get out of jury duty. I would say we need to do a lot more listening to our young people, because we have gotten into the position of business as usual, and we need to listen to them. We think we have all the answers for everything. If we did, we wouldn't be in the situations that we're in now, and so we got to stop thinking that we got it all figured out, that we know all the answers. They just may have a different solution of what we should be doing or what we could be doing. So we got to definitely start listening to our young people.
Speaking of young people, I got a question from a youth protester, Julius Edwards. He says, mom and dad both would be, this is interesting. Why didn't you retaliate after Trayvon's death? Why didn't you push harder to fight for your son? And why did you forgive George Zimmerman?
Who said I forgave anybody?
Hey, that's what this person said. I ain't say you did.
Okay, you tell your people that I didn't forgive anybody, and that's a fact. And so I did fight for my son. I got an attorney. I mean, I did what I needed to do. Besides me going to get a gun and going to shoot somebody myself. I mean, you got to think about the consequences when it comes to that. Maybe a white mom could go out and just shoot up the person who killed her son, but not a black mother. A black mother is going to jail. A black father like Tracy is going to jail. And so if you know the consequences, why would Trayvon lose his life and then I do something and then now I'm sitting in jail? Certain things you have to really think about. And that was just something I thought about. Back then in 2012 too, I still had faith in the justice system, unfortunately. I've learned better now by sitting in a trial. That was my first trial. But by sitting there in the trial, I learned that the justice system didn't see Trayvon as a 17-year-old unarmed teenager. The system is stacked against us, and we got to know that. And so we just have to stop putting ourselves in a position where we have to rely on the justice system to do the right thing. And if we, like the situation now, we're doing what we have to. They're protesting because they feel like they have to.
That's interesting. You said something very powerful. Because people, why didn't you retaliate? Well, we got to get our young people to know that retaliation and war and military strategy is more than just shooting a gun. It's more than just. It
didn't cross my mind now. Now I'm not gonna tell you.
No, that. I got you. Listen, I know you a little bit. I know it did.
Okay. So it definitely crossed my mind. Of course, when my mom said something, I was like, wait a minute, lady. You know, so, you know, you do get upset, you do get angry, and you do get disappointed, and you be like, well, we got to do something. But why would I throw away my life because somebody took my son's life?
And then you have like another son.
Time, but people really don't know what they're going to do until they're placed in those positions.
Yeah.
If they're placed in those positions, that's when you're going to see what you're going to really do.
Yeah. And I like what you said, though. You fought back the best way you could. You had attorneys, you had legally. So fighting back is not always with your fists. The best fight is with your mind. And that's a message that I hope our young people are able to learn what you were able to do. Not only that, though, but you fought back by helping mothers all across the country. You fought back by empowering mothers, empowering parents across the country and internationally to help them be able to fight back. So the fight is multiple ways. Someone said an octopus have many tentacles. So there's many different ways you fight. So I definitely appreciate that. This person says, let's go to an international question. Let's go to Ghana. You just answered that question. Ghana says, Michelle McKinney Hammond, have you been able to forgive your murderer? Nope. So this ain't like the situation in South Carolina where we're going to forgive him in 10 seconds. Hell no. What you say about okay, what would she like to see happen that her son's life? Well, you've already done that stuff right there. What you got, Jefferson, Noel? Come on. We're about to wrap it up.
I got a question for you from Facebook by Ebony Dorcelis again. She asked, how can youth be educated about their rights? Are there any resources that you all can recommend?
You said youth, while UTH?
Yep.
I would say, hey, every youth, go to your school district. Tell them they need to order the stop. Literally, I talk about their rights, their constitutional rights. I also talk about what the police rights are. Like we do simulations a lot of times with students, and I have them, we do reenactments. So in the book, there's this thing called the Stop Challenge. And in the Stop Challenge is 9 steps that not just the citizen, but the police also have to do to ensure everyone gets home. Like for instance, one time I have the guys stand up and I have the big boys walk by me and I act like I'm the police officer, right? So I walk up to them and say, hey, excuse me, my name is Officer Bryant, and I just pat them down. The first thing they do is they hit my hand. And I say, interesting, let's continue. So I say, listen, why are you here? So I get a little more aggressive, and then he hit my hand again. I said, here's what's interesting. If I am this racist, white supremacist cop, that's exactly what I wanted you to do. I wanted you to hit my hand because now I want to slam your head in the sidewalk. Now I want to put my knee in your neck. Now I want to pull my gun out and shoot you. He said, well, you ain't got no right to pat me down. You ain't got no right to touch me. I said, first of all, you don't even know the law. Your mom and daddy probably don't even know the law. The reality is if police have probable cause that you're carrying a weapon on you, they have a right to pat down your outer clothing. And most people don't even know that. So when you just did this, you gave me all the ammunition I wanted to beat your black, whatever it is. So one, know your rights. The police officer has the right to pat your outer. They don't have the right to go into your pocket because now they're invading your Fourth Amendment right, your constitutional right, freedom of search and seizure. In Chicago, the majority of the complaints against police officers is that they violate the Fourth Amendment right. But here's the deal. Most people, these so-called activists out here, they don't even know their rights. They just want to tear up something. They just want to be mad and be angry with something. Know your rights and know what you can do and what you cannot do, and know what the police can do and what they cannot do. Because when you know that and able to articulate intelligently, then at least they know some level of awareness is going on. But even in that, you have to be able to articulate yourself intelligently, because a racist cop still will try to find a reason to hurt you and to harm you. So I would say, one, get the book. Every school district in America needs to have this book and need to be reading this book because it's about empowerment.
Now.
Say it again.
Tell her about Amazon Now, where she can go listen to the audio book.
Oh, so yeah, she goes to Amazon.com and put in The Stop, Dwayne Bryant, or she has to put in that whole title, The Stop Improving Police and Community Relations. Amazon is giving a free Audible book, because I went to New York and I transcribed the book on Audible, and so they can listen to it for free. They can talk with their kids about it. There's a point where chapter 4, I was actually in a protest in Miami. Let me tell you the story real quick. I think it was in the late 90s, early 90s, the Haitian community was not allowed to give blood. So my girlfriend at that time, Karen Andre, her mom is Fada Jus. She's like a powerful revolutionary singer, Haitian. So Karen was going to go protest because they said Haitians, homosexual, hetero, homophiliacs, or whatever it is, and Haitians cannot get blood. So I'm out there on the front line with the Haitians, and they're like, like, I don't know what the hell they talking about, but I'm going to show my girl I'm out here with her. So I'm in the front. At first, the police were like 10 feet from us, or 10 or 15 feet, and all of a sudden, we literally face to face. So it's like me here, and I'm like, what am I, how did I get up here in this front line? I really don't want to be here, but I couldn't turn back. So we up here, the police start hitting their shields, move, 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 move. And I was like, I want to move, but I can't move. So somebody behind me tried to throw a rock and hit the police officer in his face. It didn't hit the police, it hit me right here in the back of my head. And so that's when I realized we got to be very careful at these protests, because what Sybrina said earlier, some people are only coming there to destroy. Some people are coming there to anger the police, because if that police would have got hit in his face, that would have been my head bust open and a lot of other people's heads bust open. So when we're talking about protesting, it's cool and fun, but we need to be mindful that somebody needs to be on the lookout, because there are instigators who are purposely trying to destroy your movement, to discredit your movement. And so we need to be wise about that.
That's good. And we have a question from David Cole.
David Cole.
Yes, he asked through Zoom, how do we create systems of accountability in a broken but closed system? Can we make these changes through elections? So how can we create systems of accountability in a broken and closed system? And can we make these changes through elections?
Sybrina?
They're not going to be able to make these changes. It takes a long time to change laws, to revise laws, to amend laws, but you certainly can change things on a local level. And then if you want to do it across the board, it takes a little more time than that. But certainly on the local level, they can get some of these things changed where people are being held accountable. Like we talked about earlier, about when somebody is, when there's a loss of life, for somebody to be arrested, you have to arrest somebody. Like, we need to know what's going on, what happened here, and sometimes you have to arrest a person in order to get a thorough investigation to find out what exactly happened. But I don't think you should just, people should be able to just kill somebody and be so comfortable with killing African Americans, and then they just go home and sleep in their beds. So we have to have accountability, not only through the police department, but we need to also create community relation boards that look into those situations that and weigh in on some of the situations that happen within the police department. I know they have internal affairs, but guess what? Internal affairs work right there in the police station with the police officers. And so you probably had dinner with some of the internal affairs guys, and so it's just like with personnel. Personnel is right there. So if you have to be written up and your supervisor writes you up, and then the union is for you, they think the job is against them, but you got people that's there and you build relationships with these people, that's a definite no-no. You have to bring in a third party. Remember, third party.
Mm-hmm. Third party.
You have to bring in a third party so that they can investigate these situations, and so we can try to change things so we can have more accountability.
Hey, the same guy who asked that question, David Cole, just said, thank you, appreciate your service and your honor. You will have my vote. So you just got one vote tonight, God dog it. David Cole is a great guy and a great thinker. California, Tanisha, we're considering the current climate of race relations and police brutality. What is your advice to Black mothers and mothers with biracial sons?
Oh, that's a very good question. And yeah. I do have friends, acquaintances, and people I've worked with biracial. It's the same thing. They're gonna experience the same thing that any African American young man experiences, and so you have to know how to address it. You have to know how to sit them down and talk to them about good cops and bad cops. You gotta be able to cover them, but you gotta let them live. When this first happened with my son, I didn't want my other son to live. I wanted him to just stay in the house, like, don't go anywhere, like, stay, And so I've learned to, like, relax a little more, and just, you know, just keep talking to him so that he keeps himself safe, you know. And so I don't know, you know, you just gotta be open and honest with them and just let them know these kids are much smarter than we were, you know. they much more exposed to a lot of things through social media, and they know about a lot of things before we even tell them. So just be open and honest with your kids, and just let them know what's going on, and let them know the right things and the wrong things to do between, you want to let them know about protesters, you want to let them know about a peaceful protesting, and you want to let them know about looters, so that they know the difference. So when they see it, they're like, oh, my mom talked about that, my dad mentioned that, you know, so you'll know. And you just want to sit them down and just, you know, just talk to them, but you want to encourage them as well.
My mother asked the question, how are you holding up with all of the new murders of young men, women, and children? How are you holding up?
I am doing fairly well. Like it's times that I take myself away. Like I'm a avid watcher of CNN and MSNBC. And they stay on 24 hours, 7 days a week. They never go off. You know, like the local news is on, you know, in 12 o'clock, and then they come back on like about 5 o'clock or whatever, and then it's over. I watch MSNBC a lot, and I watch CNN a lot, and I'm watching these channels, and I continue to, you know, listen to these different things that's happening and occurring, and it's really heartbreaking to see a lot of things that's happening, but it's also empowering to know that we have so many people that's standing up together, united,
across the world,
signing petitions. They're signing petitions. They're thinking about who's in office, who they need to get out of office, who they want to vote for next. They're thinking about local government. They're thinking about state government. They're thinking about the presidency. They thinking about all of those things. And so sometimes I tune that stuff out. I have to turn the TV off, and I have to watch something happy. I have to, not that Good Times is happy, but I like to watch Good Times. I like to watch the Jeffersons. I like to watch Sanford and Son, you know. And so sometimes I just.
So do you find yourself saying dynamite?
So sometimes I have to just disconnect some of those news, you know, that
it gets heavy. It gets heavy.
And just do other things, you know. I play games on my phone. I read a book. I take a nap. It's some things I have to do to just disconnect from what's going on, and then I miss it, and then I have to catch up on it. So then I have to go back to it and find out what's going on. But you know, those cable news channels stay on 24 hours, so you really don't miss anything.
Because it'll loop back later on.
Yeah, so even if I miss it, I can watch it a couple of hours later and kind of catch up. But that's what I do. I disconnect from it. And then I have, you know, a lot of my family is here, so I go over and I sleep in my mom and dad's bed. I still do that.
You big kid, you big baby.
Right, and I take them food, and then I help them eat it, you know. And so those are the things that make me happy. You know, I'm FaceTiming with my son, and, you know, I just disconnect from some of the stuff sometimes, because sometimes it's just a little too much.
So you're not always Sybrina Fulton, Trayvon's Martin mom. Sometimes you just Sybrina Fulton. Your mom and daddy daughter, your brother and sister, your somebody's auntie.
Absolutely. I have to do it to keep me sane. Okay. So we got to wrap this up, you guys.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. What would you get ready to say, Jefferson?
Well, two things. We have some good news for the cause of justice. Atlanta News Now, they said the preliminary hearings for the 3 suspects in the Ahmaud Arbery case is tomorrow. So I think that's very good news. The preliminary case is tomorrow. And then also, Sybrina Fulton, you have another vote. Someone else is voting for you, Mr. Ishmael Joseph.
Thank you.
Right. He sounds like a community leader, Ishmael Joseph.
Yes, he is a community leader.
Perfect.
So let me just put in a few plugs before I go.
Go ahead.
So I want people to go to the Trayvon Martin Foundation. It's TrayvonMartinFoundation.org, and see some of the things that we're doing with the Circle of Mothers, the Circle of Fathers.
Spell it, just in case they don't know how to spell it.
Okay. TrayvonMartinFoundation.org.
You misspelled foundation, but that's okay. They know how to get it. All right. So go to
No,
the
I
Trayvon.
didn't.
Yes, you did.
FOUDATION.
No.
Wait a minute. Let me see.
You said FOUD, foundation.
Okay. I got it now. You know, okay. It's been a rough
You got a lot going on. It's okay.
Okay, so TrayvonMartinFoundation.org and see some of the things that we're doing on the website. You'll see that, you know, we're doing youth events. That's something that Dwayne has spoken at. And we're doing the Circle of Mothers, Circle of Fathers, back to school event. Just see some of the things that we're doing. It's TrayvonMartinFoundation.org. Make sure you click.
Can they donate to your campaign?
Pardon me?
Can they donate to your campaign for commission?
Yes, I'm gonna get to that.
I'm sorry, my bad.
Okay, and so that's with the foundation because I have to separate the two.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm changing hats, and now I'm gonna talk to you as your next commissioner of Miami-Dade County, District 1. I want you to go to SybrinaFulton.com. That's SybrinaFulton.com. SybrinaFulton.com. That's Sybrina spelled with an S-Y because I'm different. And so go there, you'll see some of the things that I've done. You'll also be able to volunteer. You'll be able to donate if you need a yard sign, any of those things. If you want, just go ahead and log on and you'll see some of the things that I'm doing. So let me tell you the famous question everybody always asks me. They said, since I am, you know, like all over the place on a national level, they want to know why am I running for the seat of commissioner? And the reason why I'm running for a commissioner is because I came from Miami-Dade County as an employee of 20-something years. And so that's where I want to go back to Miami-Dade County. And so a lot of people don't understand that. I work for 5 different departments there in Miami-Dade County. And I just feel like I can be the voice for the people. I can bring the resources and I can bring a fresh new perspective, fresh new ideas to Miami-Dade County. What I've been seeing is business as usual. Like the same politicians run for the same seats and we don't really get things done. We don't really move forward, you know, and I just want to see my community, my own community that I live in. I was born and raised here. I want to see my own community move forward. And so it's just a new day here in Miami-Dade County.
Sweet. So we know how, and they can go to where to donate one more time.
SybrinaFulton.com.
Okay, so SybrinaFulton.com. They can donate to your campaign. That's Commissioner. TrayvonMartinFoundation.org to see what you all are doing and to get involved there. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so very much. As a matter of fact, positive vibe. You know that's hot, god dog it. Noel, Jefferson Noel is also an author. He's teaching people. He's a professor at Florida Memorial University, teaching young people how to speak, how to debate. He's also an entrepreneur himself, very powerful person. Beate, who's on the back somewhere in this thing, making sure everything is working. Tavares Johnson, making sure we're live streaming and all that stuff. I just want to say thank you to everybody. Sybrina, thank you so very much. There's so many other questions that we have. We don't have time to get to. Bahama Siobhan, thank you for your question. Thank you very much. I know you have something else to do tonight. But I will say that I honestly believe.
We'll come on again.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly believe the time is changing. And now the fight is not just us fighting, but this is not black against white, but it's wrong against right. And I believe the people who are standing in righteousness are going to win this fight because evil must be extinguished. White supremacy and racism is evil, and it is time out for that. Thank you all so very much. Love y'all. Any last words, Noel?
God bless you. Thank you all so much for listening. Never forget that your life has purpose, your life has worth, and your life has value.
All right. Beate, you can take us out. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Oh, next week, we have Manishka Santil, a licensed family therapist that's going to be talking about the trauma and what's going on now and what parents can do in regards to their children and making sure they shield them from some of the trauma, how to have different conversations. That's going to be next week at 4 o'clock, but we will not be on here this long. I can guarantee you that. Peace. All right. See y'all later. Thank you.